Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. This morning I've got a probably way too soon preview of the Ravens Week 1 matchup against the Colts. It'll be on the road in Indianapolis. Jesse Minter, of course, the Ravens' first-year head coach, is actually a little bit older than Shane Steichen based on my research. He's 41 years old. I'm going to talk about the way that Steichen attacks these Baltimore-esque defenses. So I'm going to lump together a couple of teams, one of which Jesse Minter was the coordinator of, the 2025 Los Angeles Chargers. In addition, the 2023 version of the Ravens defense, which was, of course, coordinated by Mike McDonald. Basically, I think Steichen has a number of concepts that he uses to attack nickel defenses, in particular, into the boundary. We'll get right to the film here. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have at least two other previews out about Steichen's offense, the play calls that he utilizes to attack these defenses, in particular Minter's, but also the Miami Dolphins that were coordinated by Anthony Weaver in 2025. This is a really cool play call, if you ask me. It only ends up being, I think, a 5 or a 6 yard gain. 12 personnel from the perspective of the Colts, obviously against Jesse Minter's defense in LA. Tyler Warren is lined up as the tight end. And so from a route configuration standpoint, he's going to motion out. It's a base defensive response for the Chargers. So you can see the outside linebacker is apexed to the Twins. Now, actually, there's only 10 defenders on the field for the Chargers. Somewhere over here, I think they should have an 11th player, a second safety. I think Derwin James actually recognizes it. Doesn't really impact the play, and that actually kind of illustrates my point. Daniel Jones at quarterback here isn't checking anything to the field because the design element of this play is to go into the boundary. That's Bud Dupree, who's split out or apexed over the number 2 receiver. Like I said, I believe Derwin James sees it. The routes that are run here, Michael Pittman, who's since gone, is illustrated by that yellow route. An over concept. Warren is clearing things out. They're trying to attack into the boundary consistently in this game. There's more than just this concept. In fact, the first possession was 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to attack into the boundary. But you got play action to the running back, going to the field. Secondary part of that, you got the over route, a clear out by Warren. Not saying that Warren couldn't theoretically be targeted here if they wanted to, but the safety converging, Derwin James, and the cornerback getting depth kind of takes that away from Daniel Jones, or he chooses not to go there. The will linebacker drops underneath of Pittman, so you don't have any real option, I guess, available for Jones if he doesn't want to throw the football somewhere up in this range here for Tyler Warren to go get it. But they have created a 2-for-1 into the boundary with the edge defender, who's the guy that I have spot shadowed there. If he stays with the second tight end, I think that's Mo Alley Cox, who's not a huge guy in terms of a pass receiving threat. But in this case, off the play action, the route by Warren, essentially a clear out / vertical, and then Pittman, the over concept, has occupied the boundary side corner and the boundary side will linebacker. The edge defender is the only guy who can contain the quarterback, Daniel Jones, and once he decides, I think that's Odafe Owe, in fact, once he decides to go after the quarterback, easy flip to the tight end into the boundary. Like I said, I believe it only ends up being a 6 yard gain. This was a game that I think highlighted a variety of schemes or designed concepts to attack into the boundary, and of course it worked out really well. The Colts produced 38 points. Like I said, I'm conflating or combining some of Steichen's play calls against this style of defense, be it McDonald or Minter or, in fact, Weaver last year. This one goes all the way back to 2023, quite memorable. In fact, it may trigger some Ravens fans. 3rd and 3, early in the game. One of Steichen's favorite plays in the high red zone. Other spots on the field as well, don't get me wrong. But this is a big moment. It's a really nice play from the standpoint of isolating the will linebacker into the boundary. I think Patrick Queen kind of comes forward a little bit too much here. You want to hold depth as much as possible if you're covering the running back and you're not sure if he's going to turn it upfield. But in any case, the ball is on the right hash into the boundary, and it's a great catch by Zach Moss up here. Like I said, I think that Patrick Queen comes downhill a little bit too much. He's in an unfamiliar alignment. Obviously, as an inside linebacker, being apex to the outside or being lined up out to the outside almost as an edge defender, comes downhill too much, and that creates an opportunity for Zach Moss to get up. This is really poor technique, in my opinion. Queen needed to create a little bit more space on that release. There's no mesh, or there's no crossing action between the running back and the quarterback. There's nothing for him to step up field and defend. It's not a run play, basically. It's a pass release by the running back. I think he could play this way better. I'm going to switch to the end zone angle. I'm going to do this a lot in 2026. Brent Urban here, a longtime Raven, is going to provide some pressure, and I'll show the catch this time on Queen. You guys can see what I mean about him coming forward. Whether Queen is on the field or not, Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan, whoever plays Will for the Ravens, obviously it's not going to be Patrick Queen. These are the types of plays that Steichen is going to use. He's going to recognize not just who to attack, but who to avoid. And many times if you don't have a dime configuration on the field, and I will show you some dime looks here a little bit later, particularly by the Seattle Seahawks, then he can avoid the nickel defender, whether that's Kyle Hamilton, whether that's Nick Emanwari for the Seahawks in the Week 15 game that the Colts lost in 2025, or in the case of the Chargers last year, Derwin James. All right, I'm going to show a little bit of film from last year's game between the Ravens and the Colts. Obviously, that occurred in the preseason. Daniel Jones was the quarterback, just to illustrate the way that they attack Baltimore's defensive structure, whether it's the version that Mike McDonald took to Seattle or the version that Jesse Minter showed up to LA with. This is mesh from trips. I'll show you in the routes here in a moment. The only difference is that the running back is not going to release into the boundary on that wheel that you just saw Zach Moss catch over the top of Patrick Queen. We'll get back to that in a second, or that route at least by the running back into the boundary. The reason is because the running back's involved in pass pro here. He's not a part of the route configuration at all. They're just running mesh without the running back. There's different versions of it. So what happens here, because the running back is involved in the pass pro, it's a really cool stunt, if you ask me, by the Ravens along the right-hand side. So Hummel 35 is going to pick the guard, and then Ravenel 91 is going to loop around. The running back picks him up successfully. In fact, I think Moss does a real nice job here. The difference is, that may not be Moss. The difference here, if you ask me, is that because the running back is involved with helping the interior pressure, probably have a hold here by the center, or the guard, Now you've got one-on-ones for Isaac and then Green up to the top side. This does end up being a sack that Adisa Isaac gets credit for. Go back to the All-22 here in a moment. Again, we're not in the red zone, and this play doesn't actually end up having the ball thrown by Daniel Jones, but it's a mesh concept. Usually, my contention is that whatever under drag or under route ends up on the same side as the running back's release ends up being open more often than not. So I would be talking about this blue route here coming from the top side of our screen down to the bottom side. That's not what the Colts do. Obviously, I've already covered that. You do have a vertical coming from the other side of the field. I'm talking about this orange route here that could potentially threaten the boundary side corner. Since you have an underneath release by number 1, we're talking about Tyler Warren going on this yellow line here, or this yellow route. The boundary side corner doesn't have any work, so let's look for some, right? Let's find some work from the other side of the field. So the Colts could theoretically possibly be trying to get this guy all the way over to the other side of the field. Never happens because Isaac and Green, or Green and then Isaac. It's a 3 deep, 3 under coverage by Baltimore. I think that, if Steichen and those guys had that play to go over again, they would probably call some different route configuration. 3 more plays from that preseason game last year just to try to hammer home this point, and that is that you can expect the running back, if he's lined up into the boundary, to run the wheel a whole lot, try to isolate, attack the will linebacker, and or at least clear out that space for someone else to run onto, like the mesh concept. Here, the Colts get the Ravens rolling to trip. So I'm talking about the boundary side safety, who's almost going to kind of roll to center field. And there is no design here to get the backside receiver open. In fact, it's a tight end, and that's probably a little bit of a giveaway as far as his width from the tackle. Number 1, puts him in perfect position to run this little snag/pick route. He's not actually a receiver that Daniel Jones is looking to throw the football to. We're talking about what's happening right there. I'll go to the end zone angle in a moment just to confirm for you where Daniel Jones is looking first. Again, I'm going to make a concerted effort to do that a lot in 2026. Show a portion of the route, or show the entirety of the route, and then where the quarterback was looking, so you and myself trying to analyze the game for you can confirm the first part of the read. You can see the free safety here who rolled to center field. In addition, you got Simpson up there all alone, isolated. That's the idea, right, behind setting the running back into the boundary, that threat against the will linebacker, or the potential for it at least. This is trips over to this side of the field, off screen to our left, and the running back set away. If you're familiar with my content, I call it trips B. The running back away. Trips A would be the running back on the opposite side. Of course, then there'd be no threat of a wheel into the boundary. That's the whole point that I'm trying to make, is you as a fan, if you watch the game against the Ravens, between the Ravens and Colts in week 1, you can expect, if the running back is into the boundary, to see a whole lot of this stuff. Patrick Queen, if you recall, came downhill. Simpson's getting a little bit more horizontal, still pressing a little bit towards the running back, but he's got no help whatsoever here. You can see that's exactly where Jones is looking, right? He's not looking at the tight end, who you obviously saw from the all-22 angle, who was setting a pick. The primary design of this into the boundary is to get the ball to the running back on a wheel. I think that's where Steichen's going to go early and often, in particular on some third downs. Jones does a really, regardless of who's chasing him, I think it's Ravenel from a Ravens perspective, is a really nice job of moving to his left and then getting the throw off. The receiver, I think it's Doolin, actually ends up being wide open, and two guys collide with each other. The play and the result is not the matter, and it's not really what matters here. What I'm trying to analyze with the game, a little more than a month away at this point, is how Shane Steichen consistently attacks these base nickel defenses. All right, 2 more plays from that preseason game. I should have spoke earlier. This is obviously after Anthony Richardson had been knocked out of the game by David Ojabo, So we're into the second quarter. Consecutive plays here is mesh concepts. The Ravens cover it in a different manner in each case. You do have 3 into the boundary in each of these iterations that I'm going to show you. You can see that Simpson is communicating something. I think he's trying to communicate over here to the nickel. Keon Martin down here lined up over top of the twins. It's 3 into the boundary. We're talking about the Z receiver, the tight end, and the running back all set up into the boundary. It's mesh with a wheel by the running back. The Colts are going to run it 2 plays in a row. It's a base configuration of their third down attack against 2 high safety structures, in particular when you're in your nickel. When you're in your dime coverage and you've replaced the will linebacker with someone like a Kyle Hamilton or a Nicky Manwari or a Derwin James, I would not expect that play to be as successful. You can see the triangulated nature of the threat here into the boundary. The thing I want to point out, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm talking about Steichen attacking into the boundary so much, I contend that this is the route that oftentimes is open by default when the will linebacker vacates with a wheel by the running back. Okay, so I'm talking about the drag or the under route from the opposite side of where the running back releases. Normally, you'll get a tight end sitting down in the middle of the formation or the middle of the field. And once the 2 drag routes have cleared themselves out in the middle, this route by the tight end will be wide open. But that's not what the Colts are doing here. And that's kind of actually my point. They're running the other drag with the tight end. And it's because, in my opinion, they're trying to sit down the Z receiver in the window, directly in the window between Daniel Jones and the will linebacker. There's a lot going on the screen there. My apologies if it's too much. My point is, this is a little bit of an adaptation to mesh, if you ask me, because they've switched who's running the other drag. And the reason for that, the rationale, in my opinion, is trying to sit this guy down in the window where Simpson would basically be. You can see Simpson settles there, and so that route's not available. Nor is the wheel available up the sideline because the Ravens are in a zone configuration here. And then Simpson and the boundary side corner do a really nice job of breaking once the ball is thrown. Yes, I know things will look different when quote, starters are out there, but conceptually you see this across the film. Steichen against the Ravens, Steichen against the Chargers, Steichen against the Seahawks last year. Where he's looking to attack is into the boundary. There's a whole bunch of different concepts that he'll use to do so. It's not always mesh. This is just an example, if you ask me, of a really nice job by Simpson of releasing the wheel to the zone. It's an easy read, right? That there's no... the quarterback and the tight end never make contact with each other, so it certainly can't be a run play. It's obviously a pass if he releases directly out in the flats. On the very next snap, the running back initially is lined up to the field. We're talking about this guy here, and he'll flip sides. Baltimore has called a different coverage entirely because Simpson will vacate and go with the wheel. Watch the communication that occurs between Simpson and Buchanan. I know Roquan Smith will be on the field as the Mike linebacker, so that Mike linebacker would be here, set up to the field or to the wider side. And either Simpson or Buchanan would be into the boundary. Once again, you have 3 to the boundary. The difference is one of those 3 is not an actual wide receiver. So both of those guys up here are tight ends because it's a 12 personnel grouping. We'll let the play flow through here so you can see exactly how they cover it. It's still mesh. The only difference is there's going to be a pick or a screen by the inside tight end who's up here. I don't believe that's Cox. I think it's a backup from last year. But again, the running back is releasing on a wheel, and now it's a pick. It's an obvious pick that's being thrown here or set by that tight end on the Mike linebacker, Buchanan. Simpson, but again, where is the ball going? It's into the space that's vacated by the will linebacker. Simpson, in this case, went with the running back, so you've got a man look here, at least from Simpson at least, but in addition, from the boundary side corner, and it just opens that space for the receiver to run onto. Once again, it's dueling. There's no real route down here at the bottom side of the screen by number 10. I think it's Adonai Mitchell. There's no real route there because the entirety of the concept, the read, where they want to go with the football, is exactly where it ends up going, into the boundary, either to the running back or the drag emanating from the field that runs onto the space vacated by Trenton Simpson covering the running back. Hopefully I explained all that in a way that makes sense. It's a really well-designed play. It happened, almost a year ago at this point. They're attacking the will linebacker, or they're clearing out the boundary side coverage and then bringing someone with the field onto that vacated space. Like I said, this should be considered as part 1 with how I believe Shane Steichen will attack the Ravens defense in week 1. Like I said, it's a little over a month away as this thing premieres, and I'm conflating or correlating the same attack methods he used against the Seahawks last year. Obviously, there's a differential factor there in that we've got Phillip Rivers as the quarterback. Arm strength, very different from his playing days or during his prime, I know, but a great job, if you ask me, of my suspicion is oftentimes being given 2 plays, 1 to the field or maybe 1 to the boundary, and then checking to the one that is the safer or more conservative option because they didn't want to turn the football over. And in fact, it worked from a Colts perspective. They hung around in the game pretty long and really put a scare into Seattle. This is 12 personnel against a base nickel defense. The Colts just converted a 3rd down on a field side screen to Michael Pittman. So I'm going to give you 3 plays in a row. All 3 go into the boundary, in my opinion. They're going to catch Seattle rolling here the wrong way. So there's a reason for it from a Seattle perspective. It's F counter into the boundary with the ball on the left hash, and they're motion and Pierce across to create a 2-by-2 set after the motion. So one of the things you see a ton with Steichen is that they're either pulling a tight end or a guard on a ton of run plays across the formation. What I mean by that is the ball is on the left hash, so either a tight end or a guard is crossing the midline opposite the side where he lined up consistently. Now, Seattle, I say they're getting caught rolling wrong. It actually works perfectly for them because they're running a Manwari down the line and then bringing the corner Witherspoon for the quarterback if the quarterback was to keep it. We all know Phillip Rivers is not going to keep it and run the ball. This was a designed give. If he is reading someone, it's a Manwari, it's going to be a keep. He's not going to give the football when he sees the edge defender, or in this case a nickel DB, running down the line to tackle the running back from behind. It's a boundary side run play, run concept, F counter. In fact, that the Seahawks defend really, really well. It's a great track by Nick Manwari, but absent the blitz, the play could have been successful because they would have numbers, if you ask me, with 1, 2, and then 3, the tight end. Three guys crossing the midline after the ball is snapped, or in the case of Pierce, going in pre-snap motion. It's a constant, if you ask me, when you look at how Steichen calls plays against these defenses. I know that other people have involved, or perhaps will be, as far as calling plays. Steichen's a head coach, and he's certainly got experience as an NFL play caller, even only at 41 years old. So the very next snap, the next play is a really nicely designed concept, if you ask me. Now, this is mislabeled, in fact. It says nickel. That's not true. It's a dime configuration. From a Ravens standpoint, obviously, our nickel slash dime linebacker is Kyle Hamilton. For the Chargers last year, it would have been Derwin James. So it is still 11 personnel. And the routes that Rivers is reading or looking to is up to the top side, into the boundary. It's a too-high configuration. And what Seattle has done here is they've taken the dime linebacker. Really, by default, Nick Manwari is a nickel DB, but they've substituted to create a dime package. The nickel DB now is Devin Witherspoon lined up in the slot. Manwari is the dime linebacker kicked over to the wrong side of the field and attacking on a blitz. As a result, Seattle has really no choice but to drop out the boundary side edge defender because there's just no one else who can defend that area or who can help out at all. The lone remaining inside linebacker is Ernest Jones IV. So for the Ravens, obviously that will be Roquan Smith. He's the guy that's not going to come off the field. Really well-designed screen by Seattle. I'll get to that here in a moment when I talk about the end zone angle. Creates a hit for Derek Hall, stunting underneath. And this, if you ask me, is where there's going to be a game within a game within a game between Steichen and Jesse Minter. It's a man-free coverage. They do drop the outside linebacker, Boye Mafe, who's since moved on to the Cincinnati Bengals, in fact. And what Seattle has done here is what I think Minter and Weaver have got to figure out, ways to force the Colts into a certain protection scheme. And if you ask me, what you basically get is you get a half slide by these three offensive linemen, and then the running back stepping up to deal with the Mike linebacker, in this case, Ernest Jones. The potential of the blitz by Ernest Jones. Now, that's not what happens. Ernest Jones doesn't blitz. The running back is checking, and what Seattle's done is they've run Leonard Williams up the field from a three technique alignment, and then Derek Hall loops underneath. He's the guy that gets the quarterback hit. How does this happen, or why? Because the running back is vacating. They've elicited a certain slide or pass pro, by the Colts, whatever they call it, or other people, and then it produces a quarterback hit by Derek Hall. Exceptional stunt, if you ask me, really quick. The coverage on the back end had to be pretty good too. There's just a real small margin for error for Phillip Rivers with his lack of arm strength here. Not being disrespectful at all, because I think he played fantastic when he showed up in Indianapolis this year. The ball was there, it's just probably needed to be a little bit further in this direction for Warren to control it. No time in the pocket, trying to navigate what the blitz is, what the coverage is. In my opinion, Steichen and Rivers knew where to attack safely. You can call it conservative if you want. It's just, if you ask me, a byproduct of having a smart quarterback, Rivers, who was limited at that age. And their answer, in my opinion, was to continue to attack into the boundary in a way that produced very little chance for a turnover or a negative play result. Like I said, this is filmed from the Colts' Week 15 loss in Seattle last season when Phillip Rivers showed up, I think on 3 or maybe 4 days' notice to play quarterback for them. This is part one of hopefully a 2 or perhaps 3-part preview. I like to put out videos on Saturday mornings. If you guys enjoy them, please let me know in the comment section. Likes and comments always help drive the engagement. It's getting increasingly difficult for people to produce content on YouTube that garners enough revenue and or rewards for them to continue to produce things, particularly long form. So if you guys enjoy it, please like and or comment now or at the end of the video. This is the very next snap. This is a sequence of 3 plays in a row in the first quarter. I think that's important to mention. This is a part of Steichen's design, or his game plan, if you will. Even when it looks like they're going to attack to the field, you've got 3 receivers to the field, one of which is Warren. As the play and the routes reveal themselves, you'll see that it's actually designed to go into the boundary. Manwari is the will linebacker, he's the dime linebacker, replacing the will linebacker. And you get this kind of over-under concept between the blue route and the yellow one. Third portion of this could be the red kind of dig-ish route. This is essentially a deeper in cut. Pierce as a vertical is almost kind of acting like a clear-out route. It's a constant threat, though, that Pierce could attack your outside corners deep. His yards per catch. Everything about, his career is just on the upward trend. So I don't think you can ever take it for granted that the boundary side corners are just going to be able to take him away. He's a real threat, if you ask me. Love actually is tripping or losing his footing as the boundary side safety, and he's the guy who's going to make the play. This really gives you an idea of the margin for error that was not there for any team dealing with the Seahawks, but in particular, Phillip Rivers. You can see the ball doesn't have a whole lot on it. I did slow it down. I'll give you the end zone angle in a moment. Ball is there for Warren to catch, don't get me wrong, but Love is collisioning him, and then a man worry underneath. It's an extremely physical and violent play. I think that it's designed to go into the boundary, really put the Mike linebacker, Ernest Jones IV, who will end up here. He's currently walked up on the line of scrimmage. He'll end up somewhere in this direction. I think it's in this area, excuse me. I think it's designed to attack him specifically and then hold or possibly clear out the boundary side safety with the threat of the vertical by Pierce. The Seahawks are a different kind of animal, however. They'll leave their corners soloed up man-to-man, especially Reek Woolen and Josh Jobe, because they know that those guys have the long speed to keep up with receivers on vertical concepts. Same play. This will be the last play that I talk about. End zone angle. You do have 3 rushers to one side, one of which is Boye Mafe, all the way lined up to the outside. In addition, Nick Emanwari is off screen from our perspective right now, but he comes into the screen kind of like down here at your 430 position. But there's Tyler Warren coming across the field. Jones is occupied by Pittman underneath, so you got built-in options, for the quarterback, again, going into the boundary. Whether that's because Steichen wants to avoid the field side coverage altogether, whether it's because he wants to avoid certain players, Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, Nick Emanwari, I don't know. I mean, obviously Rivers sees Emanwari lined up as the dime linebacker, so he knows he's not lined up to the field. He's not going to be able to impact the coverage there. I just think conceptually, this is where Steichen feels more comfortable attacking these style of defense. It's a brilliant play by Julian Love, but in any case, if you guys enjoy these types of videos, please let me know in the comment section. I do have a larger subset of plays to illustrate over the course of these previews. I think a total of 38. We'll actually cover one more here. This is a 3rd and 5 that kind of culminates the Colts' second possession. It ends in a field goal when they tie the game, I believe, at 3. It's a 3rd and 5, ball on the left hash, and there's 3 into the boundary. Very similar to the setup that I showed you earlier from 2023. The touchdown by Zach Moss against Patrick Queen on a 3rd and 3. In addition, the preseason game against the Ravens, week 1 of the preseason last year. This is another dime look. So you got Ernest Jones IV as the Mike backer, pushed into the boundary. And there's a reason for that. It's because the running back is on this side. If the running back flipped, then you would probably have more space between Emanwari and Ernest Jones IV. It's 3 to the boundary, and I'm highlighting the 4 safeties or nickel DB that's on the field. In the case of Devin Witherspoon, dime linebacker, Nick Emanwari, and your 2 high safety structure, Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. So the way the routes work out here is I think you've effectively got a clear out concept. You do have an out route by the number 1, a speed route by Michael Pittman, but watch him run his route. He has no thought or idea about getting the ball, in my opinion. Now, that's actually where the ball ends up being thrown. I think what they're trying to do is clear out the coverage in this lane and then have Taylor sit down on top of it. I don't believe that Warren and Pittman actually think they're going to necessarily get the ball. Nick Emanwari's got Warren, really jammed up, being super physical with him, but they do actually target Pittman a little bit late against Josh Jobe. Very physical coverage. Something to point out post-snap is that because the running back lined up on the side and released to the side, really I should leave that alone, it's illustrated by the blue line, they push the Mike backer further into the boundary. So the Mike backer, Ernest Jones IV, and Nick Emanwari are both lined up in a position to take the running back man. It really turns into man on all of these guys, the safety over the top, free down to the bottom side. You had motion across, and the Seahawks end up doubling that receiver. Conceptually, do I think that this is what the Ravens and Jesse Minter are going to do? Basically leave Pierce one-on-one with someone? I mean, it's possible, don't get me wrong, if they believe that so many of the concepts are quite obviously set up to attack into the boundary. That's the yin and yang of how these coordinators, these play callers, adapt and adjust to each other throughout the game. like I said, I've got a significant amount of film broken down from multiple years, across multiple years. In fact, I have some film from week 1 of last season when the Colts, I think, dropped 33 points on the Miami Dolphins. It's 1 year. It'll be 1 year later, kind of ironic, where Anthony Weaver is the defensive coordinator again, going up to Indianapolis to face a Shane Steichen offense. Whether Daniel Jones plays or not, Jonathan Taylor, I think, just signed a 2-year extension. Even though Michael Pittman's not there, I think they've got significant talent to get things accomplished within this offense. The structure, or the idea conceptually for Steichen, is to attack into the boundary consistently against these nickel defenses that start off, at least pretty much every snap, in a 2-high safety structure. The game goes obviously a lot more in depth than that. This is just one of the things that I've noticed that I think is going to be a big determining factor when things are lined up, I think, on September 13th. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section. It takes a lot of time to coordinate stuff like this and put the annotations on screen. Hopefully you think that it supplements or boosts your understanding of the video and the way that I'm able to explain it. I recognize that some people don't like the on-screen drawings, but they're kind of necessary at this point, so I hope you understand. If you think other Ravens fans or even Colts fans perhaps would enjoy this preview, albeit one that's over a month too soon, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other football fans can enjoy it as well. Appreciate you guys' time.